Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Hanakane, and today I'm going to be reviewing Spiritfarer for the Nintendo Switch. We're going to be discussing what the game is about and whether it's worth buying. So, let's get into it. You play the game as Stella. Throughout the game, you're going to be exploring the seas and taking spirits into the afterlife while helping them resolve unfinished business. In order to progress through the story, you will need to fulfill certain quests set by the spirits on your boat, which will often require you to explore the map and its islands in order to gather and harvest resources. As you introduce new characters to your boat, new main quests are added to your to-do list. Adopting new spirits on your boat will endow you with items that will allow you to expand your skills, which is a mechanic more reminiscent of Metroidvania style games. Yet it complements the gaming experience perfectly, as more areas of the map open up for exploration once you acquire new skills. The nautical theme and island exploration is reminiscent of Zelda Wind Waker, while the core gameplay surrounding resource management is more in line with simulator games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. You will require certain resources to progress storylines, to upgrade your buildings, your boat, and to discover new areas of the map. And in my first playthrough, this probably took around 70 to 80% of my playing time. There are no time constraints, however, so you're free to go at your own pace or postpone quests entirely in favor of just relaxing, fishing, or exploring the seas. When you interact with your guests, you will have the option to feed them a meal you've cooked and hug them, both of which will improve their mood. And once their mood has reached a certain level, they will offer you certain goods after you talk to them again. These can come in very handy and reduce the amount of grinding for resources, so it's great that the game rewards you for taking care of your guests without it actually being mandatory. So, let's look at the positives of the game. First, we have the visuals. If you're judging the game purely on the visuals, it's the easiest 10 out of 10 you will ever give. Whether it's for the interior design of the buildings on your boat, the postcard-worthy islands, the ocean at dusk and watching the sunrise, or the character animations, this game makes for a stunning visual experience. The art style is kind of like a Disney meets Studio Ghibli type aesthetic, and it's just gorgeous. It also looks and feels fantastic in handheld mode on the Switch, with the side-scroller elements lending itself to the portable experience seamlessly. So if you're thinking of buying Spiritfarer on a different platform but you have a Switch, I highly recommend you think about playing it on the Switch instead. Let's look at the menu, quests, and inventory navigation. Whenever there's a certain development, whether it's your meal that you've just finished cooking, an event being triggered, or a character progressing a quest, you'll hear a subtle audio cue which will be complemented by an icon with a direction arrow. This tells you where you need to go to retrieve a certain item or speak to a particular character, and it makes it very easy to keep track of all the various things going on at once, which would otherwise be easy to forget given how many resources, quests, and characters you will be juggling at any one time. As with any game where there are multiple ongoing quests and storylines occurring at the same time, it's easy for players to forget who needs what, or where you had to go to get that thing that someone mentioned sometime. Luckily, Spiritfarer makes it almost impossibly easy to keep track of these by scrolling through your menu. All in all, these features add up to a flawless experience thanks to a host of very smart game design choices by the developers. Alright, so let's talk about the currency. The in-game currency you will need in the game to purchase items or upgrade your boat is called glims. One thing that can make currency-heavy games very annoying is the amount of grinding you have to do in order to obtain enough of your currency to move the game forward. and it can quickly become tedious and quite unenjoyable. Fortunately, I never found myself having to spend hours grinding for glims in Spiritfarer, as there are always opportunities abounding. These can range from treasure hunting, completing side quests, errands, or selling collectible items, and more. It never feels unbalanced, however, as you will still need to go and perform certain actions or visit certain places to earn glims, and the sheer variety of ways in which you can do this gives different types of players the flexibility to decide how best to do this in a way that suits them. Make sure you keep your guests happy and interact with them as often as possible, as that will increase the frequency with which they will give you valuable resources. Now, for the platforming. Although this is decidedly not a platformer in the sense of the game genre, it does incorporate platforming as the means of getting around. The platforming that does take place in this game is ironically some of the best I've experienced in any 2D side-scroller, no joke. The physics engine makes running, jumping, gliding and dashing through the game an absolute pleasure in and of itself, to the point where I would love for the developers to create a dedicated platforming game with the same game engine. I would buy that game in a heartbeat. A quibble that I often have with some otherwise great platformers like Shovel Knight, Blasphemous or Mega Man is the inability to hold a button for running and being able to play with the character's acceleration. This is one of the main features that makes a game like Super Mario Bros. Still a ton of fun to play even today, as you have a great deal of control over not just how fast you run, but also how much momentum you carry into a jump. Although Stella also lacks this ability to control her speed, her running feels so smooth and properly paced that I never found myself wishing I could hold a run button to make her go faster. This is also aided by the fact that most areas you explore are pretty small and self-contained, and also by the animation, which has such a spring in its step that it's a delight to watch her in motion. Now, for the music. The soundtrack is a comfortable 10 out of 10 and easily contender for one of the best gaming soundtracks I've ever heard. Now, that is a tall order because we have a plethora of outstanding gaming soundtracks, even dating back to the days of the NES. But for Spiritfarer, whether it's supple, emotive, orchestral piano scores, or gritty western songs infused with some jazz elements, or the more mystic, kind of zen-evoking qualities of a Japanese style piece, the soundtrack is flawless. It's moving and it perfectly complements the mood of every environment and event in the game. The main theme is an absolute hair raiser and performed with equal deftness. It honestly would be ready to go for a feature film soundtrack, and the fact that we get to hear it in a video game really speaks to the amount of passion and effort that the developers put into this project. Now, as for the themes, it's safe to say that death is the one aspect of the human experience that is truly universal across time, cultures, and even age groups. Whether it's confronting one's own mortality and ailing health, or dealing with the grief of lost loved ones, and this has traditionally been the subject of literature, film, and music, but with the rare exception of titles such as The Stillness of the Wind, a topic much avoided in video games. Spiritfarer not only makes this its very premise, but handles it with a surprising degree of nuance and maturity. As you welcome new guests onto your boat, they reveal aspects of their life to you little by little as you progress their story and interact with them. You get to listen in on their memories, regrets, and unresolved issues in an incredibly humanized way. The writing, not only of the dialogue, but of the story and of the characters, really succeeds in making these Disney-looking animal characters sound and feel human, as they gradually lay bare their insecurities, their points of pride, and their vulnerabilities. Without giving away a spoiler, one of the characters struggles with severe memory loss towards the end of its arc and requires a little extra help from Stella in her final stages. Having been very close to my grandmother who developed dementia in the last years of her life, this storyline was incredibly poignant and had me feeling really emotional. And this is when it dawned on me that the game is not just a game. It's therapeutic, it's healing, but it's not pandering or overly simplistic. The characters have their strengths and flaws, just like any human being. They can be kind, selfish, quirky, conceited, even sometimes use profanity. And ultimately, it's the sheer complexity and contradiction of all their characteristics that makes them feel real. And that's what lends their final departure its heft when you give them that one last hug before their spirit ascends and vanishes into the universe. So let's talk about the negatives. Luckily, the negatives for Spiritfarer are very few and mostly negligible, but I would be remiss not to mention them. The game has crashed inexplicably on a number of occasions when I was playing, and I found myself having to reset to my previous save point. Fortunately, the game does feature autosaves, and as far as I can tell, this happens every time you enter or leave an island. There may be other times as well when the game is autosaving, but I haven't been able to verify that yet. But the number of times that the game crashed and I had to restart was quite alarming, and it appears as though some people have lost a lot more progress than me due to this happening to them. Another major bug that I experienced was my boat not being able to move. Now, sailing the ocean is one of the core mechanics in the game, so this can be very frustrating. As I would sail, the boat would stop thinking that it had reached the edge of the known map, and I would have to restart the boat several times while only making a tiny amount of progress before it stopped again. There's a list of other bugs too that the developers have already acknowledged and are currently working to fix, so hopefully a patch will come out soon. So in conclusion, if Spiritfarer's unique vision and artistic direction appeal to you, but you are unsure about the gameplay and gaming experience, rest assured that this game will not only deliver great value for money, but also an unforgettable experience. I even hesitate to use the word game, because it delivers so much more than most games do. Most of the time, it's the escapism that appeals to us about a particular video game, and while there is certainly plenty of that in Spiritfarer, it also packs a lot more than just that, ultimately culminating in an enriching, moving, and unique experience which you will not forget anytime soon. I probably played somewhere between 30 and 40 hours before completing the main story. I still have tons of side quests, stories, and upgrades left to complete, so I won't be done with the game just yet, and it looks like it will have some decent replay value even after finishing the main story. So, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more videos about Spiritfarer and other Nintendo Switch games. Let me know what you thought of this game in the comments below, and see you guys in the next video. Bye!